What's up guys, DJ here at Top Tech Cards and Games, and today I'm going to do a Kozmo deck profile. Since Gold Series finally came out, this deck is much easier to build, and I don't have to worry about spending $1 million or stealing a bunch of cards from the store when they would rather sell them to put together Kozmo. So I was finally able to put it together and show you guys kind of my thoughts on the deck. I really don't love this deck. I think it's pretty underpowered compared to a lot of the other decks in the format. It doesn't really have that many ways to expand what it's doing in one turn. You kind of just play a guy, beat with it, make it into a bigger guy, beat with it. And that's not bad. It's got decent disruption elements without needing to play very many disruptive cards, but I did as much work as I could to really increase this deck's power level, sort of bring it to a bit of a higher spot as far as its ability to force back rows and just play around different things. So, I don't know, I'm pretty happy with the results. I like the deck a decent bit, and it's kind of fun. So let's just get into it. First we have 3 Kozmo Dark Destroyer. Dark Destroyer is the best card in the deck. In general, decks right now really do have a how do you beat Dark Destroyer test they have to pass before it's a playable deck. And I think that's for good reason. This card's just extremely strong, and when it comes into play, you can deal with your opponent's cards. This is what I mean saying that it has decent disruptive aspects. If this guy's in your hand, you can remove one of your pilots to special it, to just pop one of your opponent's monsters and really disrupt the flow of their plays. Slip Rider is our other 3-of spaceship. Slip Rider is level 5, so it's kind of irrelevant for our extra deck. We'll talk about that when we get there, though. Slip Rider pops a spell or trap, which again gives us that disruptive element, and floats when it dies. So, not bad. We then play 1 copy of Dark Eclipser and 1 copy of Forerunner. I don't want to play too many of the giant spaceships because they're sort of cloggy. Once you find any of them, Cosmotown ensures that you have a decent stream, so you don't need to play too many. I like Dark Eclipser's 3000 attack more than I like Forerunner's ability to float. That's why we play 1 of each. It also gives us more versatility with Kozmo Tin Can to have more different cards we can dump. As well as just being, in some situations, I would rather have an untargetable 2800 guy. In some situations, I want a 3000 attack guy that can run over Ignister, and when it dies, it's going to search me with Dark Destroyer a lot of the time. So, upsides for both of them. Onto our pilots, we have 3 copies of Tin Can, first off. Tin Can is probably the most important pilot in the deck now. You would just naturally think it's Farm Girl, but it hasn't been that way for a while. If you've been keeping up with Kozmo, this isn't any news to you. But yeah, Tin Can gives us a way to get extra cards into our hand. It's great at being a disruptive piece, so you dump your spaceships at the end of turn, you can set Call of the Haunted, end up with a Dark Destroyer or a Slip Rider in hand, and then use Tin Can to disrupt your opponent's plays, as well as just summoning him and using him as a generic pilot. Next up we have 2 copies of Kozmo Sword Trooper. I actually really wanted to play 3 Sword Troopers, but we needed to play a 2nd copy of Kozmo Farm Girl from the little bit of testing and messing with the deck that I've done. I really wanted to play 3 in 1, but there were too many situations where I would want to get a Farm Girl with one of my mill effects, whether it's Tin Can or something else, and then still want to be able to special one with a spaceship. So I ended up going to 2 and 2, which lowers your ability to play a little bit. Sword Troopers is great. This is the card that makes me miss something for the extra deck. It gives you the access to rank 3 plays to deal with your opponent's stuff, and I do not have a copy of Break Sword, which would be just an extremely good card to use in the extra, so I'll talk about that when we're at the extra deck. But this also gives you the ability to make 2 summons from your hand in a turn if you're stuck with multiple ships in your hand, which this deck can get clogged with early sometimes, and you can set up later in the game intentionally with the help of Cosmotown. Farm Girl is the pilot that puts out the most damage, since you can hit with her, search out a big spaceship, and then special that spaceship. So there will be a lot of turns where when you're really set up, you have boards with like a spaceship in play and a Farm Girl. You hit with your spaceship, or not even a Farm Girl, just you hit with your guys. You can let's say you hit with something else rather, I guess. Like we had these 2 in play. Hit, special Dark Destroyer, pop, hit, Surge Dark Destroyer, special Dark Destroyer, hit. And just kill your opponent from full health that way. Which is just, always an ability you want to have to just end the game on the spot, right? So, she's just really important. Also, 1 copy of Kozmo Goodwitch for our last pilot. Goodwitch is not in any way a spectacular card. She's cool in the sense that you can shut off your opponent's, Majesty Fiends and stuff with her, which is really nice. Or not Majesty, that was a bad example. Vanity's Fiends. Which is cool, but in general, she just doesn't do enough in most matchups, but I wanted another level 4 monster that I could dump with Tin Can and stuff, so I would have something else to make rank 4s with. Finally, we have 1 copy of Gem Knight Garnet because we are playing Brilliant Fusion. For spells, first off we have our Kozmo spells, so 3 Kozmo Towns and 3 Emergency Teleports. Nothing really fancy here. These are just generic Kozmo staples, really good cards. Then we have 3 Instant Fusion and 3 Brilliant Fusions. We are a fusion deck. These cards, again, just let us expand what we're doing in any given turn. Brilliant Fusion gives us a rank 5 with Seraphinite that we can play with. It puts a Kozmo monster into our graveyard for Call the Haunted, Sword Troopers, just various different effects that care that they're there. And it also puts the Garnet into our graveyard for Instant Fusion, which gives us a lot more options. Instant Fusion also can special summon Panzer Dragon to make rank 5s with, which is also extremely powerful. And the body from Garnet, or Seraphinite, sorry, can be used to just beat your opponent down. So these cards really go a long way in helping to increase what your deck's able to do, and I like them a lot. Similarly, I have 2 copies of Reasoning, mostly because I couldn't find a card that I wanted to cut for a third. Reasoning's a little bit worse than both those cards, I think. It might even be worse than just playing an extra Sword Troopers, actually, or something like that. Maybe an extra Spaceship and an extra Sword Troopers could be in these spots. I definitely wouldn't hate that decision, but I want to do it with Reasoning because I felt like it gave me the most options to really play with. And again, the extra Spaceship and Pilot might be a better choice since they synergize much better with the Brilliant Fusions. Reasoning also has the dissynergy with Brilliant Fusion in the sense that if you hit Garnet with this before you draw Brilliant Fusion, your Brilliants are just dead. And your opponent can call right and you don't get anything. But your levels are so varied in this deck that I think it's worth playing, and it just gives you another way to get extra cards on the board that your opponent can't really interact with. After that, we have 2 copies of Terraforming to search out Kozmo Town and our 1 copy of Chicken Game. Chicken Game is very safe to play in this deck since you can just replace it with Kozmo Town after you've drawn your card, or pop it with Slip Rider if your opponent doesn't have anything that urgently needs popped. For our traps, we went pretty light. I have 3 copies of Cosmojo and 3 copies of Call the Haunted. These are the trap cards that can be used best both offensively and defensively. So I can call back my Dark Destroyers or my Slip Riders in order to disrupt my opponent. I can call back a Pilot in order to special one of those cards from my hand. Or I can just use it aggressively to put an extra body on the board and beat my opponent down. Cosmojo similarly can be used to disrupt my opponent and kill one of my ships, give me another ship to deal with something, and remove one of their cards, but I can also use it during my turn when I'm pressing to just blow up one of my ships, especially another guy, and deal extra damage. So these cards both effectively disrupt your opponent, but also give you the ability to push a little bit extra damage through. I didn't want to play too many traps because then I fall into like I want to go first, not want to go first, but I need to go first kind of mentality with this deck, which isn't something I really wanted. I want to be able to go first or second with this deck and kind of just pivot based on whether I win the die roll. If I go first, summon Tin Can and set some defensive cards, that's great. If I go second, just push my advantage, maybe play Brilliant Fusion, summon a Sword Trooper, start specialing multiple ships, that's great too. You want to be able to attack from every angle possible, and I think that's what this list does. Let's go into the extra deck. I have 1 Barbaroid. Barbaroid's important because of Cyber Dragon Nova, and it just gives you a little bit more access to the beats, especially in the mirror, where you can make this card and kill their Dark Destroyers while negating them. We also have 1 Nodin, 1 Panzer Dragon, and 1 Seraphinite. For rank 4s, we have Giant Hand, Abyss Dweller, Castell, and Direwolf. One option that's not in here would be to maybe cut these cards for the Utopia and Utopia Lightning. I definitely wouldn't disagree with that choice, but I'm just trying some slightly more defensive cards. We then have Gaia and Cyber Dragon Infinity, which go with our Cyber Dragon Nova and Volcasaurus. For rank 3s, I have Acid Golem and Leviair. These guys just push the most damage through. Leviair gives us an extra pilot sometimes too, which is great. If I had Breaksword, I would cut my Acid Golem for Breaksword. And then finally, we have number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Yeah, long freaking name. New card from Gold Series. Really strong rank 8. Just because a lot of people aren't super familiar with it, myself included, I'll just give you a quick read of it. Once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell card or effect is activated on the field, you can negate that effect, and if you do, attach that card to this card as an XYZ material. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can detach one XYZ material from this card, change the attack target to this card, and perform damage calculation. If a face-up XYZ monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one face-up XYZ monster you control. It gains attack equal to one of those destroyed monsters' attacks. So it's just a really good card to help lock up your opponent, negate a spell or trap or an effect, force your opponent to attack it so they can't kill any of your smaller cards. Normally you're not going to want to give up 2 Dark Destroyers to make a rank 8, but you have the option, and this is absolutely the best thing you can do with that. Excuse me. If you want to play other traps, I would probably consider trap holes before I would consider solemns, and then use Rafflesia in your extra deck. Other than that, I don't really know how much I would change with this. I think most of these cards are pretty good. I do want to play a copy of Strawman eventually. Maybe that would be what I would do if I cut the reasonings, play Strawman and an extra copy of Forerunner, something of that nature. But, you know, there's a ton of room in here to play with, I guess. You don't have to play the Brilliant Fusion engine. You can play a much more generic Kozmo list, but this is how I wanted to play the deck, and I've been having some fun with it. I don't love Kozmo still. It's definitely not a deck I would take to an event like Nationals or a YCS or anything like that, but you're certainly going to do fine with it if you do. It's just not really my cup of tea. So if you're looking for something to play at your next regional, maybe try out this variant of Kozmo instead of just playing the generic, 11 trap. I'm really gated by my normal summon kind of builds. If you guys have any questions about the deck, let me know down below. I'm open to entertaining any suggestions, though I will not just turn it into a generic Kozmo list. So, don't bother saying, oh, cut these cards and play a pile of traps. Or like, Brilliant Fusion's not worth it. It's like, Brilliant Fusion might not be worth it, but suggest something that I can do to keep increasing the way my deck can play through back rows then. Other than that, just not a whole lot else to say about Kozmo. Hopefully this deck doesn't get hit by the... I kind of hope it does get hit by the list, I guess, whenever we get one, but I have a feeling it's going to be here to stay since they're still printing new cards for it. But yeah, so thanks a ton for watching, guys. I hope you can take something useful away from this deck that you can put to use at your next event. Let me know if you have any questions, and make sure you subscribe for tons more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content coming soon.